One of the first toys I got as a young girl was a doll. It was a chubby little baby girl doll with blonde curly hair and blue eyes that would close when you tilted backwards or forwards. Do you remember those? It was my little baby. I would take care of it by carrying it around, trying to feed it, dress it, comb its hair, shush it to sleep. I did everything my mother did to me and my sister because this was my little baby. As a girl, it was a very normal toy. This is what society expected from me. At some point in my life, I was expected to have a child of my own and nurture it. This was just practice. Growing up, I saw my life moving in a very specific way. After primary school, I would go to high school and then university, graduate with honors, find a job, settle down with a man, and fill the earth with multiple babies. I don't think I questioned any part of this plan. It's just how things went, and looking back, my life has pretty much gone that way. I went through primary and secondary school without a hitch, got into uni, got my first boyfriend, dated him throughout my time there, graduated with honors, got a couple of jobs, and eventually married my boyfriend. Next up, kids. And in a span of our 4-year marriage, we got 2 of them. It all looks great, but and there's always a but. I can't help but question how much this life of mine was my choice versus pure expectation. In the past few months, I found myself questioning my decision to have kids that soon. I know my husband was more than ready for kids when we got married, and all our family and friends talked about in our wedding was the kids we were going to have. But did I really think about it? And if I did, would I have had them when I did? Right around the time I was asking myself this question, I saw a post a friend of mine shared on her Instagram stories. The post was a TikTok video that featured a young woman who had made the decision not to have kids, and she wanted to hear from older women who had also made the same choice and how they felt about the decision that they made years before. All she had been told is that she would regret her decision. So she wanted to know from these women if they regretted it. Did they wish that they had kids? All of them said no, that they were still okay with that decision, and that sparked a conversation between me and my friend. She has expressed multiple times that she doesn't want kids, and that's always been met with many reactions, most of which implied that she might regret that choice. I shared with her my questions and thoughts about kids, and we ended up talking about how much some parents regret the choice of having kids. There's a whole Reddit thread on it, and when I went to read it, I couldn't help but feel sad for the parents because I can totally understand how they got there. I don't regret my kids, but there's a big part of me that regrets getting them that soon. This is the 4th episode of Mama Tales Season 3. I'm your host, Sally Kuria. I thought this would be a very interesting conversation to have here, so I invited my friend Gaki to come onto the podcast and talk about her choice and what that means to her in her life. The first question I asked her is when she knew that she didn't want to be a mom.
Wow, I can't really pinpoint it to a particular time in my life. I think it's been a very gradual decision, but if I can give it a time frame, it's definitely um, between the time when the relationship between my husband and I started getting serious to this point. I don't, the funny thing is, I struggle calling him my husband sometimes, but I feel like everyone treats me like his husband. Because after Rorashio, between Rorashio and the wedding, it's like, what do I call you? I mean, traditionally, it's like, you're my husband, yes. But it's just because the government isn't involved. So it's like fiance, husband. I don't know. But yeah, so it's until the it's from the time where our relationship started. I started feeling like our relationship will be going somewhere until this point where I was like, actually now, even till now, I still think about it and I'm like, Do I though? But you see, the only reason I think about it is because everyone tries to guilt me with, you're going to regret it. You're a woman. Your purpose is supposed to be to bear children. And I'm like, okay, I can get it because biologically we have what it takes, but is that the only thing that's there for me? I've never really had to seriously think about having children until this point. So I think also there's the fact that even before meeting Trevor, it's like I didn't see it. I didn't picture it in my life. And I feel like that to me points to something. The fact that I've never really sat and said, you know what, in like such and such number of years, or like when I'm dreaming, because we all have these dreams in our heads about like how we'd like our lives to turn out to be and so on and so forth. It's never really been and some children somewhere. It's always just been I just want a loving partner. Like that's all.
The follow up question that I would have is, were you scared by that choice? At any one point, did you be like, were you like, I don't know if I'm making the right choice or assumption here?
Yes, yes, it does scare me. And that's why I was telling you, even till this day, I am still like, have you really cemented this? Have you really? It does scare me, to be honest. I'm not going to lie that it's one of those decisions that, I just made it and it was wham bam bam. Let's go for me. It's a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of back and forth, to be honest. And again, as I had mentioned, it's because anytime someone discovers, Kai, this chick doesn't want to have kids, and now, I'm 30, so that question comes up a bit more frequently compared to when I was in my 20s. I mean, when you're in your 20s, no one is really asking you, Ati, do you have children? No. But then once they start understanding, okay, she's 30. So it's like, do you have a husband? Do you have children? I mean, because everyone's projecting all these opinions that, oh, you're going to regret, or you're going to have this, it makes me stop and think, hold on, could there be some truth to what these people are telling me? Because there are people who are mothers and they genuinely enjoy it. Like you can see it from everything. Like, I mean, they're glowing, they're happy, they're like, oh my God, my child. And I have met those people. And, it makes you wonder, am I really doing the right thing? Like, could there possibly be a moment where I look back on my life and think, God damn, I should have had those kids. I should have done A, B, C, D. But, and by the way, I think about this usually when I'm showering because I feel like I think about so many things, so many serious life moments when I'm showering. I don't know why. Yeah, I think about the decision of, am I doing the right thing for myself when I say I don't want children? Yeah. And so anyway, it's a lot, but it's because if Kiki is existing alone in a vacuum, I wouldn't. But because everyone's showing me there's this other side where you can be happy, there's this other side of the argument because you're a woman, A, B, C, and D has to happen. There's this other side because you're a wife. Yeah, you're a wife because it's weird existing as a wife and you're not having children. Like, what do you mean? Basi, and by the way, people tell you things like, kwani uliolewa ndio ufanye nini? You know, no, people can be nasty, by the way, once they learn that you don't have children, but that makes me recoil and I'm like, is it because it's your own decision, your own thoughts as an individual person, or is it because of other people?
Here's the thing, right? You can't really, as much as you'd want to live in that vacuum, it's very hard to. And it's one of those things of where you're like, which ones are my thoughts and which ones aren't? How do I kind of filter it and be strong with my decision, or even is it my decision? So I see, and for something as big as this, it's even louder.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's the permanency of it that makes it go like, okay, listen. Because I'm pretty sure if it was like, okay, you can always change your mind at 50, I wouldn't actually be thinking about it. If it wasn't, if it was possible and healthy for women's bodies to be able to conceive and bear children at 50 or like 60, please come on. What do you mean? But it's because it's either you're having them and you're having them with these within this time frame, or you're just not having them and it's like, gosh, whatever decision you make. But you know what, Salia? It's one of those things where you realize every decision you make in life, there's always consequences. Whether you choose to have children, whether you choose to be a parent, whether you choose not to be a parent, there's always consequences. There's always risks involved and there's always consequences. No matter how you try to twist it and make it look like one decision is right, the other one is wrong, there's always pros and cons to all decisions that you make. So I think it's a matter, it comes down sometimes to, actually, very often for me, it comes down to what is it about being a parent that you think you can't handle? And what is it about not being a parent that you feel like I have capability to do this and capability not to do this? So for both sides, what do you feel? And I feel like even when I look at it that way, I'm just like, no, 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 no. I think maybe I can pass on that. And by the way, I even said I was going to say this on your podcast. I'm not a child hater. I'm not a child hater, for the love of God. No, 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 no. I am not just, and I feel like this is usually the misconception that very many people usually have. One, that people who don't want children hate children. Oh my God, no, 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 no. In fact, on the contrary, I think they are so adorable because I'm just like, I mean, how? How can you hate? How can you hate children? Yeah. And then, like, there's this thing where it's like, oh, just because you've chosen not to have children means that the decision I have made or someone else has made to have children is the wrong decision. And it's like, no, not at all. Two things can exist. You can exist happily with children, you can exist happily without children. So I said, I was like, okay, that needs to be a disclaimer.
No, it's good. It's fair. It's fair because I think I've also had someone ask someone else that was like, "Is it that you don't like kids, or you don't? Is that the reason why you don't want them?" And I just want to put it out there that you can have kids and not like them too. It's just one of those things of like, great, So it can happen, and we should also agree that the inverse is also right, that you can choose not to have kids and you absolutely adore these people. So then here's a question I have for you, because you've thought about like what, parenthood would look like. If you close your eyes, right? And it doesn't even have to be like you as a mom, but what do you think motherhood looks like?
Oh, wow. You know what? If I don't even think I have to close my eyes. I actually observe many mothers, by the way. Since I've been actively thinking about, do I want this or do I not want this? I've been observing a lot of moms, yeah? And for me, I think motherhood looks like very many ups and downs. I think the apps, because I've also been in a position where I've had to ask questions like, oh, what is it like to have kids? Is like most people say you get to see a reflection of yourself, and it's like when they hug you, when they tell you, Mama, I love you, when they tell you, oh, Mom, I need you to do this and this, to that feeling of being needed, that feeling of being connected to someone who's of your own. People say it's like the best part. It's just like, okay, there are all these other struggles where it's like diapers and cost of this and that, and then the crying, the screaming, the sleepless nights, and not being able to communicate properly. So it's like, I want to help my child, but I don't know what to do. And then there's like, if you, whether your partner is active also in the parenting together with you or not. Like, there's so many other things that are the downs. But then it's like, at the end of the day, when I come home and I look at this child, I'm just like, wow, just how beautiful. And honestly, I get that because I'm like, what a miracle it is to be able to have a human form inside you. Like, it's like, as in, it honestly just blows my mind that out of like a sperm and an ova, is it ovum? Ovum, yes, the sperm and the egg come together, and it's like you bring forth this person with brains, with blood flow, like complex anatomical systems, like all these things. It's like, wow, what a miracle that is. So I get it when they say, like, nimetengeneza huyu. Like it literally came out of me and here it is. And so I get it. For sure, I get it. So I think for me, motherhood looks like ups and downs. But now there's also this other thing where there have been all these discussions on TikTok, right? And I think that was like the genesis of us getting together and thinking, wow, this would be such an awesome topic to discuss. And very many people have been highlighting very many negatives that I did not know were even possible when it came to motherhood. You know, people are talking about losing their teeth because, like, you have to, like, I think the calcium has to go to like your baby, and then there are all those extremes. The people who are talking about losing fat from their ass, and I'm like, that's possible. I'm like, wait, what? And anyway, all these I'm just saying they're like on a funny note, but it's like, you know, there are people, women are coming out talking about how their physical bodies have been affected. Health wise, they're talking about, oh, I don't know, I lost this, I lost that, I lost the other. Emotionally, they're talking about this and that and the other. Relationship wise, they're talking about, with my partner, this and that and the other happened. I mean, think about everything, all layers of existing as a human being. The girls are coming out and they are talking about it, and there are no filters. And it's like, wow, I did not know, because I know the part of sijui bwana ametoka ameenda, the baby daddy maybe has gone, has left. I know the part of like money, but people are coming out to talk about all these things that I didn't know existed, and I'm like, so now, in the recent couple of months, it's looked like, it seems like this is really hard.
And you know why I asked you that question is because I just wanted to tell if you have an accurate idea of like what motherhood is, and you've summed it up very well. That bubble that bursts when you're a first time mom, when you move from, you know, just you yourself, don't just not even talk about the partner, but you yourself, this version of you, and then all of a sudden you you're different. You're different. Someone looks at you and like, but you should, aren't you the mother? I'm like, how do I know? You know? And even that sense of like, I don't think mothers are given the chance to accept and appreciate that this is a different human being that all of a sudden depends fully on you, you know? Like the dad is great. That's just like great, another chest to lie on. But they literally depend fully on you. And that's a lot, right? I realized that in as much as I wasn't ready to be a mom, I'm a pretty damn good one, you know? There's no way I would have ever known that if I wasn't in that, right? And my kids are thriving. But there's a lot of trade-off that needs to happen to get there, you know? And we really try and, you know, water it down. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe if people knew, right? Then then this choice of like, you know what, do I want to go through that? You know, would be a very common thing. But I think it's like it's one of those like, shh, don't talk about it, don't mention it. It's part of womanhood.
I actually like that you're saying it like that, because when I shared, so when I shared the whole story, you saw it on my Instagram stories. When I shared that whole thing where like there's this lady who's asking older women what it's like to be childless and you're much older, and then like we had this conversation. So there's this chick who came and told me there's this book I recommend. So she recommended a particular book. I forget the name, but she tried to point out to me there's a reason why people psychologically attack you by trying to use fear mongering, because it's because they know, had you known had you known, you probably would have made a different decision. And so I feel like it's so sad that we would want to be hush hush about it, because it's like, why can't we let them know and actively try to maybe form a community around them choosing to become mothers? Why can't we try and look into our healthcare system and see like what is it that we can do to help them? What can we do about educating them on, the way you're saying you're expected to know, but it's like, no, I don't know. This is a new human being. I don't even know what my body is doing. It's just doing something. And then like what's going on? So it's like, why then are we not investing into systems that will support mothers and motherhood and just them thriving? It's like people are focused on the child, but then the mother not so much. That thing comes up. That thing comes up a lot, and it just makes me so, I don't know. Again, these are things that usually make me step back and go like, "What? It's messed up how we're going about this thing." And quite frankly, I always say it's a big damn sacrifice. In fact, I think any man is privileged if a woman decides to have your child. You are so damn privileged, because it's not just about bringing someone forth. This is your whole life rearranging itself into something even you won't be able to know. You don't anticipate what's going to happen, and it's so heavy. And it's like, do I have the community for it? Do I have the education for it? Do I have the financial support for it? Do I have everything that goes into? But it's like people don't want you to know. And then you get there and find out, and you're like, oops, oops.
And then you're not allowed to be angry about it. You're not allowed to be angry about it. You're not allowed to talk about it. You'll be seen as highly ungrateful. You'll be seen as, but that's your job. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. And you see, that's what I'm saying. It's like the manipulation, the gaslighting, the fear mongering. Like, it's like, no, no. And like even with the thread for like the Reddit thread that everyone's now talking about, how parents are coming out and saying how they regret having their kids. It's just like, wow, how sad. Because and I think another thing people need to understand is, just because people choose not to have children doesn't mean that the population ends. And it's like, what? No, 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 no. That's not happening. Let me tell you, the people who will still know, and there's a lady I appreciated how she was able to say, women who want children. They will know all the consequences, they will know all the everything, and they will still decide, you know what? This is what I want for myself, and they will go ahead and do that. And trust and believe there are people who, even with knowing, they will just go ahead and do that. It doesn't mean ati tunaisha sasa tunaisha aje. I mean, we're 8 billion, for the love of, I mean, where are we going? People will still reproduce and continue to reproduce. But my thing is, can they be informed? Can we be informed? Can more and more people not be hash about, okay, unajua this is what will happen, A B C and D, lakini tusiwaambie ndio wasikatae.
We will pick up our conversation with Gaki after this short message. Hey, here's a little secret. Do you know that this episode is not sponsored by anyone? But you could. Are you providing a product or service that would provide value to moms or moms to be? Well, this is your sign to work with me. I don't want to get too bogged down with the details of how this would work, because we have a story to get to. But what I can tell you is that there's a super special offer to the first 3 people who want to advertise with the podcast. You know what's even better? The very first person gets an unbelievable offer to sponsor an episode. So if you're interested, shoot me a DM on Instagram or let me know through the link that I've shared in the show notes of this episode. You can also email me at mamatalespod@gmail.com. All right, let's go back to our conversation. Bringing parents into this, right? Do your parents know that you do not...
Oh, child.
Because,
Kwanza tucheke.
we are Africans. We need to be named.
Wacha tucheke kwanza.
Yeah, but do they know that that's a.
I need my grandchildren. What can compare? My mom knows. My mom knows, but she's in denial. My dad, he probably doesn't have an idea and he probably could not be bothered. He's just somewhere doing his thing. But my mom, though, my mom is Kiki, it is the gift of God. I'm just like, God said, I'm just like, wait. Let me tell you, she knows. But her thing is every woman's happiness comes from children. And I don't fault her, by the way. Because you get older and then you begin to see the limitations your parents have in their thinking or in their way of doing things. So I don't really fault her, to be honest. She's been brought up in an environment where it was encouraged for women to be good wives, quote unquote, to be good mothers, quote unquote, good sisters, good daughters, all these things. And it's by good, it's mostly means don't question the norm, where fanya kazi yako tu vile ambavyo tumekuambia ufanye. Yeah, so I don't fault her for saying a woman's happiness is children, and that's the only way you can have your happiness. So she's definitely in denial, to be honest, definitely in denial. But I'm just like, you know what? At this point, time will tell. At this point, you'll just come and discover. So even when people ask, and now at total, we're just like, I even stopped fighting people. I stopped being I'm not nowadays. Because I used to get so angered when someone tries to tell me, what do you mean you're not going to have children? First of all, it feels like a violation of my boundaries, because it's like, this is what I've decided. Don't question me on it, because it's my life. I have not made a decision for you. It is for me. So it feels like a violation, and it also in a way feels like you're calling me unintelligent, because it's like, wewe ujui, what's wrong with you? So it feels like being insulted, and it also feels like a violation of my boundaries. But nowadays I'm just like, tutaona. Nah, we even laugh it off. We laugh it off. Let me tell you, kwanza, I don't know, okay, this is probably like getting into too many details, but it happened recently with my gynecologist. So I wouldn't really call him my gynecologist. It just he ended up being my gynecologist due to an emergency. So I recently was in hospital. Okay, not recently, but last year, because of fibroids. So I was going through an open myomectomy. And this guy, oh my God, Sal. The moment, when we're doing consultation, because the way I found out I have fibroids was just like, me, I was just going for a routine checkup. And then it was like, okay. Then the next thing I'm being told, guys, like, you're 30, this is the size of your fibroids, they're this number, you need to get rid of them if you want children. Yeah. So, by the way, fibroids actually, very many people have them. So if you have like the really tiny ones and you can live your life normally, no problem. But mine were getting bigger. So the span, which I already knew I had them, but now they were bigger. And it was like, okay, listen, this is not healthy. You're 30, you don't have children, because the doctors are all up in your business trying to find out whether you have children or not. And I'm just like, so when I found out through this doctor who wanted to rush me to surgery, and I was like, no, my mind is not prepared for this. I do not know what this is, and I don't know why doctors agreed about this surgery thing. Ni juu ya pesa. Kwanza, because he was there listing my insurance. I'm like, excuse me, sir, I'm just digesting this information. I called my mom. My mom knows someone who has done surgery for a number of women. He's a reputable guy. Nini, nini. So I'm like, okay, next day bring. And then because I was switching jobs, sikuwa nataka miss on insurance. So it was like, yeah, it was that time when I was switching jobs, and so it was a matter of how soon can we get this done. So because of those factors, it needed to be done as soon as possible. My mom knows a doctor. I go to the doctor during consultation. He's like, so we're going to do, he calls it restorative something of the uterus to improve fertility. I don't know, some medical things. And then in the midst of all that, he's like, are you married? And I tell him I have a fiance. And then he's like, oh, right now your parents are just waiting for grandbabies. They're waiting for you to be active. I'm like, listen, this guy was vile. Let me tell you, he was so foul. Aki, my experience was so bad. And I remember I was so mad because he's there telling me, women like you would not want children. You think that's normal? It is not normal. I want you to have grandbabies. Where's your husband? This man should be getting babies inside you. I was like, what? Do you know? I was so mad. I went and called my mom. Mom, ulinipatia huyu daktari. Akasema, yeah, I know. Luckily, and I know my mom is these women who they don't know how to take anything seriously. Oh, man, I'm not like, what do you mean? Yani, uh, girl, it was a terrible experience. The way people just expect, it's like at whatever expense. People find it so weird that you don't want children. Like, don't you know what you're missing out on? You are abnormal. You don't hire. Surgery kamaliza, tukamaliza surgery. He's there now removing the wound because now I was literally cut open. I don't know if that's how they do it for CS though, like, because it's like, I have the bikini cut. So he was there. I think I was there for like, was it 3 days or something? I can't really remember right now. But he's removing the bandage, telling my husband, Ati, as he's removing the bandage, Ati, you better get active now. You better, the next time I'm seeing her, I want to see her pregnant. Let me tell you, Sal. I felt very violated. And to him, he's this old Dr. Sawa. He has all these achievements. Ni, 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 ni. Sawa. The accolades, Akonazo, Sawa. He did the surgery well. I mean, thankfully, I recovered well. But it's just like, despite everything that's going on through your body, that doesn't matter. Me, I want to see children. And you see, that's why I'm saying it got to a point where I realized people don't care about the mother, people care about the child. And even the child, it's up till a point you become an adult, and then now it's your turn, especially if you're a girl. Now it's your turn. Ehe, mtoto ako wapi? We now don't care about you, even if you are a child at some point and we cared about, or supposedly we did. It's like, you know. So people don't care about like the vessel really. They just want to see, okay, imetoka, like the child, the baby is here.
Yeah, but I'm really sorry that happened though, because, and that's something I wanted to ask you about, right? Like, why do you think, a decision like yours bothers so many people?
Um, I don't think it's an answer that maybe whoever will be listening will like. I feel like it comes down to control of women. And it's not because like Ati, I've read somewhere. I think this is just again based on like when I listen to people talking about their experiences, listening to women on the internet. It's like as a woman, how dare you go outside the norm and decide not have children? What are you doing? For some people, it's just that thing of like, it's black and white. You're choosing something, and it's like, my mind is in a spasm right now. What exactly are you doing? But then there's also those other guys where it's like, because you're a woman, you need to be under control. And I came to find out about this thing called, is it coerced reproduction or something like that? There's something about reproductive abuse that I came to know about the other day, where people were like, for very many men, unfortunately, but apparently, allegedly, it's a thing that apparently for very many men, they like to view pregnancy or like bringing forth a child as something that traps women because they know that these women will not really advance that much, or I can emotionally manipulate this particular woman because there's a child existing. And there was this kafani story. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. I actually thought about it the other day and I was like, that's so messed up. Where there was this apparently long ago, actually, women used to be in control, women used to be in charge, women were this and that. And then the men got together and decided to bring down the women by getting them pregnant. I was like, you know what? Could it be because people are afraid of what you could accomplish? Because I'm not saying, and this is not to say like kids stop you, but it's just because that you have so many things to focus on at the same time that your trajectory is not really up and up and up and up and up or like as fast. It's just that it takes some time. So is it because we're trying to not get them? We know their potential, we know where they can get to, that when they decide hold on, you're not going to do what? Which means, are you going to then go on and be a success at my expense? Or like, I'm not going to be able to exert this authority over you because for some very odd reason, even when like a guy or like a man is not your your partner or like your, it's like they expect this sort of submission, even though sometimes, and it even comes out even in the office space, if you've ever noticed, it's like they expect this sort of submission just because you're a woman. So the one that I've seen where I'm compelled to wonder, could it be a control issue? Because it's like, listen, we know how to bring you guys down, and it is through what? So you're telling us, there's also, and actually it's a huge conversation online, by the way, and I'm always there like, oh my gosh, I want to see what's going on. So people are now, yeah, the women are coming out talking about how they're child free, and the men are like, no, 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 no. You think you're going to have a good time? You think you're going to be 50, and it's like you're going to be scared with your cats, of which I think at this point I've come to discover when people tell you these things, it's because it happens to them, by the way. There are studies showing how very many men actually die alone because men don't know how to be vulnerable with each other the way women do. So even without families, it's like women can still find a community around them, and it's like, yeah, we can take care of you. Like, I know you, Sal. If there's an issue, I mean, I'm more than happy to come and like check up on you and see like what's going on. But then with guys, it's like, no, that vulnerability, that thing, it's just not there. So yeah, I would say when it comes to men and how they're trying to bring down women for deciding not to have children, I think it's a control thing. Maybe for the women bringing down other women, it's because they've internalized the idea that there's no other possible way that you could live your life. It's either one way and that's the only way. And I mean, you're crazy. You're crazy for wanting otherwise.
And I would even think it's even like what you were saying earlier. I think even from what other women, it would come from a point of like, you mean I could make that choice? It could even become from a point of jealousy, of like, I wish I could have been bold enough to make that choice. You know what I mean? Humans are very good at projecting your own fears on somebody else. So you could look like an easy target of like, I don't want to. In my mind, I'm sure if you're given the choice, you'd probably be like, you'd take a minute to think about it, right? But now, because you'll probably live an alternative life than mine, I feel like I should. And why are you trying to be different? Like, who has given you the leeway to do that, or the power to, like, what are you trying to be? Just go conform.
Yeah, and I can definitely see how someone would be like, oh my gosh, you mean that was an option? So all this stress I've been going through, I could have skipped it had I just made a different decision. I definitely see how that could be a thing, for sure. I see how that could be a thing, yeah.
And now let me bring this back, because you've mentioned your partner a lot, right? Was it something that you were both on the same page with, or is it something that you both had to like agree, someone had to compromise, or like how? Because it's not the norm to hear that, all of you could probably be on the same page. Someone would be like, Gaki, but you're trying to stress Trevor.
Yeah. Oh, it's so sad. Okay, just before I answer your question, it's so sad that people have to look at the woman as denying the partner of something. And maybe it's the guy who doesn't want. And then me, I'm the one who's suffering. It could be like that. Maybe him, like him is like, I don't want children. And then you're the one who's there, like, or like it could be either way, but it doesn't have to always be the woman's fault. Because every time someone comes to discover, ati utaki watoto, sasa si bwanako atakwacha, I'm like, ma'am, men have left women with 20 children, who've given them 20 children, wamewacha, sembuse wewe. I mean, anyway, um, luckily for me, Trevor didn't want kids. Thankfully, my husband did not want children. It never really came up as, oh, this is a deal breaker. No, it just happened to be like, babe, kuna venye, if you want to run away now, this is the time because I, yeah, I told him that because, um, in as much as I had to seriously think about it when we were serious, I had an inkling towards maybe I couldn't, maybe I don't want this towards my late 20s. And so the guys that I'd meet and maybe I'd express the idea of, maybe I wasn't so set on my decision, but I was like, maybe if yeah, I just don't see this happening to me. And guys would be like, how dare you? How don't you see this? Da, 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 da. Every man wants to see his offspring. And they'd put it as this idea of manhood is making a woman pregnant. So and I'm like, what? So I knew by the way that if my partner is not going to be okay, if my long-term partner is not going to be okay with not having kids, that for me is we're done, we're closing shop. Kila mtu enda tafute mtu wake, by the way. It's not a must. And I think also prior to meeting Trevor, I was very okay with not having a long-term partner like that. I was very okay with should I end up making a decision where this is final and I don't meet someone who I'm compatible with enough to want to make a long-term commitment with, I'm okay by the way. Kukua peke yangu, I'm sawa because I feel like it's important to decenter other people from your life and put yourself there at the center. What is it about you? Because I feel like this decision of fearing not to want children, it's like, guy, but will I get a man? Because what? You've centered a man in but it's like remove your parents, remove your siblings, remove everyone. You at the core of this thing that's happening. What is it? And then now from that you make decisions based or like you make decisions based on how you're going to associate with other people based on what you've decided for yourself. So for me, I knew, if this guy katas, it's just Nairobi tumekula character development. Kwani see, this one will just be another one in the books. I was like, listen, because I would feel so sad if I wanted to make such a major decision, if I made such a major decision and now I have to change it because I'm afraid of losing a partner. Like it would be sad for sure. It would be sad if we parted ways because I mean you don't really come by people that you're compatible with like that every other time. Mm-mm, you don't. But it was like it would be sad if I had to compromise to having children because I was afraid of losing this person. I don't think I would be able to forgive myself at the moment or even years later because I'd be like, but why, babe? Why? Yeah, to be honest, I feel like I'm lucky with my in-laws. So far the experience that I've had, I feel like I can say I'm lucky with my in-laws. Of course, we human beings, our behaviors and patterns they can change, but I feel lucky because they're not in our business like that. Even the fact that we decided to get married in the AG's place and kina Trevor, the lawyers. Me, I was expecting mabasi lazima zikuje, sijui kina nani, yani I was ready to be told no, unaoa mtoto wetu. But they were like, I feel like Trevor's parents are just woke, like for boomers. I honestly, there are times he tells me things about his folks. I'm like, are your parents boomers? Because I don't see how this guy, he sits down with his parents and he's like, this is this and this and this is what is going to happen. And they're like, okay, you're the one who has to live with the consequences, so you decide. And they always tell him, you're the one who has to live with the consequences, so you decide what you want. So, going forward, it may look like them saying, um, you're the ones to live with the consequences. So if you decide you don't want them, aya, munajua what will happen. If you're the ones who decide you want to have them, you also know. But it's your life, it's your business. So it could look like that, but then also I'm not naive to think, unajua it's grandbabies. People, there's just a certain way. There's a certain way people think when it comes, or like people get out of character, or like you get to see their true selves. I don't know, whichever way. So if they do insist, it will always circle back to Mungu akitaka tutapata, because and I know it's a terrible way. It's a terrible way. But you know, in African societies, the way you have to sprinkle some religion, some politeness, some, and it happened even with the nasty gynecologist. At some point, I even stopped fighting because I had to go for two other appointments because this is post-op. I have to go for two other appointments so that he can figure out, okay, are you healing well? Is everything okay? And he'd bring up children, and then me and Trevor are like, Mungu akitaka. Like it got to that because I realized you're going to be pissed. You know, Trevor, nothing bothers him. Yeah, whichever. Like he's very unfazed by things. I, on the other hand, I have to fight you and your mother, and because you have to hear my point. I mean, come on. So it just got to a point where he was just like, listen, if you continue telling people who don't understand your decision about how they need to understand your decision, it's never gonna work. Because people who don't want to understand just simply do not want to understand. Yeah. So it's like, haya, sawa, what's the next option? Mungu akitaka. But you guys know how you've pangaed yourself, yeah? So yeah, that's how but yeah, it gets ugh. it it gets very uncomfortable for sure. You know, it feels like someone, it's like you're not intelligent enough. You've not seen life enough. You little girl, you little girl, you're going to change your mind. And you know, sometimes even people take it as invitation to ask you very personal things. Yeah. There are people, I remember the times people were asking me, so now, like, how do you guys have sex? And I'm like, excuse me, what? What contraceptives are you people using? Like, how? And it's like, hey, people, let me tell you, Sal, people will take that as invitation to violate you like you have never seen before. I mean, I could definitely go on and on and on about experiences that I've had, but for me, I see it as I have chosen to do for my life whatever I want to do for my life, you know, and there's an internal compass as well that makes me make the decisions that I make. It's been informed by so many things, you know, other than just generally not having that, you know, that bug of that, there's that calling that you feel to do things that I just don't have when it comes to being a mom. So there's that, and there's also all other things that I see around me that have informed that decision. I'm even forgetting where I'm going with this point. But yeah, the point is, it is for me what it is for me. It does not mean that it has to be the same for you. So there's no need for you to come and attack me because you're feeling like, oh, but look at her anajiona nani, unajua this is a bless. And many people do that where they want to attack you and bring curses upon you because you've said you don't want a child. And it's like, why would you curse me though? Because if you really value human life, you would not want me to be in harm's way, you know. So that's why I keep saying some people care more about the child, but you as the mom, I wish it as we don't even care. Have we seen the child?
Do you think you'll ever change your mind? Have you ever asked yourself that question? Do you think you'd ever change your mind?
Yeah, I have asked myself whether I will, but the way it's looking so far, no. Should something happen in the future and I change my mind, then I guess I'll deal with it then. But so far, no. I feel like I'm pretty confident in my decision. Well, once I decide I'm going to permanently shut out people's voices. But I feel like so far I'm good, you know, because again, there are no assurances. I keep saying if I do end up changing my mind, it may be very unfortunate because it may be pressure from other people, which would be a sad thing because people ask you things like, you're going to be sad, who's going to take care of you when you're old? Don't you want to see ABC? And it's like, just because I choose to have children doesn't mean that there are any assurances or guarantees that they will be there to do all these things for me. And I don't want to live my life pegged on one human being. I mean, it's a lot of pressure you're putting on this person, right? So if I do change my mind, which again I highly doubt, but I hope it will be with the most purest of intentions and not because someone got into my head and just, you know, cracked me open and they put in all these thoughts, and it's like, okay, yeah, now I've been, shamed, I've been made to fear into this decision, and I have to do it. So yeah, yeah.
At the top of this episode, I shared a question that was plaguing my mind. Did I have my kids too soon? Well, here's what I think. Yes, I did have them too soon. Given a bit of thought, I would have waited a year or two before they came. I could have used that time to enjoy time with my husband, build this career that I'd wanted in my head after quitting my job. But you know what's funny? My life is the way it is because I got them that soon. It is through motherhood that I found my passion, my career, and purpose that has brought so much contentment in my life. I'm not sure I would have gotten here if not for my daughter coming when she did. On the other side, it did take us a long time to figure out how to enjoy quality time as a couple, but that's all we do on Saturdays these days. No kids, no errands, just a day of doing unplanned activities together, something similar to what we would have been doing if we didn't have kids. I want to thank Gaki for coming on the podcast. She's a very funny, as you have heard, loving, beautiful friend, and a pretty awesome user experience designer. Thank you for listening to this episode this far. Next, we will hear from a single mom who I first met on YouTube after she found out she was pregnant and had to embark on this journey alone. If you'd like to share your story on the podcast, just let me know by filling out the form on our website. That's mamatilspodcast.com or on the link in the show notes of this episode. Make sure to follow the podcast wherever it is that you listen from, as well as on Instagram to keep up with the community and be in the know just in case I announce something. If you enjoyed this podcast, let me know through the Q&A and poll if you're listening on Spotify. And please do me a favor by sharing this episode with a friend or three. Till next time, bye.